Do you take things too personally? It's hard to know sometimes, right? Like, what should I take personally? What shouldn't I take personally? So today I'm going to talk about 5 signs you do take things too personally. And I'm going to give you a hint at the end about what is really under that habit of taking things too personally. And then I'm going to follow up this video with a video on how to stop taking things too personally, because this is kind of a complicated topic. And I thought, better split it into 2. So let's jump into 5 signs that you take things too personally. So the first sign is that you take things personally that truly have nothing to do with you. And if this is you, you've had experiences like this and you know it, right? Somebody doesn't get back to you with a text and all of a sudden you're in a incredible drama in your head about what's happened and why and whether they're being rude to you or what you did that caused it. And then a little bit later you find out they lost their phone, they dropped their phone in the toilet, right? Something happened that has nothing to do with you. Another common example could be somebody who's usually fairly friendly to you is all of a sudden kind of rude and short and cuts the conversation off. And you go away thinking again, like, what did I do wrong? What happened? Does that person not like me anymore? What's going on? And then later you find out they were either having a really bad day or they were in the middle of an emergency or something was preoccupying them that had nothing to do with you. And perhaps they had a lapse in manners, right? So if you have those experiences, we all have those experiences like once in a while, but if you have those experiences regularly, then this is definitely a habitual pattern of yours. And you will feel a whole lot better once you learn not to do it anymore. So that's the first sign. The second sign you take things too personally is that you receive some criticism delivered in a kind or reasonable way, let's say, and you just spiral down into self-criticisms and overthinking the situation. So let's say you're at work and your boss approaches you and your boss wants you to do something a little bit different and they give you suggestions and you take this as a personal failure, a personal failing. That's taking things too personally. Similarly, at home with your partner or your family, somebody asks you to do something a little bit differently, to do a better job with the dishes or to clean the counters after you make your sandwich for lunch. A request or slight criticism delivered in a reasonable manner. And again, you go into an entire story because it feels like your very essence is being criticized when it's not. It's just a behavior. Sign number 3 is that you spend a lot of time ruminating around social situations. If you are ruminating about criticisms you've received or perceived slights or going over and over uncomfortable situations, you are probably taking things too personally. And rumination actually is underneath all of these different signs that you take things too personally because all of them cause a certain amount of rumination. And I did do a video a few weeks ago. I will link it up here about 5 ways to stop ruminating. So whatever you happen to ruminate about, that video will be useful. But if your ruminations tend to be around things like social slights or uncomfortable social situations or feelings of blaming or am I responsible or are they responsible? What did they mean by that? Why did they say that? Is that true? If that's what's going around and around, you are probably taking the situation too personally. Sign number 4 is that your emotional response to the situation is outsized. And generally you'll know this. Or you might have a question about it. You might be like, I know I'm really, really, really upset. Should I be upset? Should I not be upset? Other people are telling me I'm too upset. But perhaps what happened is really like this upsetting. And to you, it's like this upsetting. That is definitely a sign that you are personalizing what happened. You are taking a situation and really kind of making it about you. That person's behavior was about you. Or the reason this happened is about you or some failing of yours or some problem with you. But again, you are spending way too much time thinking about it, feeling about it. You know that your emotional reaction is overblown. And then sign number 5 that you tend to take things personally is that you get defensive a lot. You might be in a conversation and the person says something and all of a sudden you're defending yourself and the other person might even be a little bit confused, like, why are we going there? Like, that's unrelated to what I was talking about, right? Or maybe they did criticize you and you go into a lot of defensive discussion. And then after the discussion is over, you continue that defensive line of thinking and rationalization all going around over and over here as if you're like actually in court in front of a judge. I imagine you know that feeling. And if that's happening, there is probably something you are taking too personally. Now, you might have noticed that the first two signs I mentioned that you take things too personally are really in situations where the other person is not doing anything that is personally directed towards you. But those last three, those could happen in situations where the person's not thinking about you at all, or it has nothing to do with you. But it could also be a situation where you're engaged with someone who is attacking you, who is being rude to you. And that might feel very different to you. In fact, it is very different, I would agree. And what should eventually come out of that is different. But those habitual patterns are the same in both of those situations. So let me know, comment below if that made sense to you or not. Sometimes I share a little insight that I have, and I'm not really sure I'm explaining it well. So it's always helpful to get your feedback. But even if someone is being rude to you or criticizing you or picking you out or bullying you, it actually also doesn't have to do with you. And you might be taking it too personally. And I am going to pick up on this in my next video on this topic. So if you're not subscribed, do subscribe. You can also hit the bell to be notified when I release a new video. But I want to pick up on this point about what do you do about it? How do you stop taking things personally, particularly when you're in a relationship with somebody who personally attacks you, right? And in those situations, I would not say you just let it go. I see that a lot. When you take things too personally, just let it go. Well, first of all, how do you do that? Secondly, is that always the right thing to do? Sometimes it might call for a particular type of response, but that response could be grounded in knowing that it's really not about you, even though it feels like it is. All right, so we'll tackle that next time. But I wanted to come back because I said that I would share what is really underneath this habit of taking things too personally. Because in understanding really what's under this, then you can begin to take steps to change, to shift, to question your own thinking, and to begin to see things differently. So to explain this, let me start by saying that we all see the world through our own lens. This is one thing that makes communication really hard. It makes relationship hard, is that I communicate something and I'm communicating it through my own lens. It might get a little distorted. Then you're receiving it through your own lens, and that might get distorted. So it's kind of like we intend to say this, and the other person hears something totally different. Those are our lenses. The more we can clear our lenses, or at least question them, the more accurately we'll be able to perceive and navigate through the world, right? So if we're taking things too personally, we are putting it through a lens, well, one, that it's about us. And a lot of people focus on that. I'm not sure that's all that helpful, although sometimes it can be helpful to think about the fact that a lot of our rumination or upset thinking is sort of very me focused. It can sometimes shift us out of that. But basically, our lens reflects how we feel about ourselves. Our lens reflects experiences we've been through. And often our lenses are very shaped by our childhood experiences. So if we have past hurts that created negative beliefs about ourselves or negative beliefs about the world, those then become the lens through which we are seeing things. And so someone makes an offhand comment, it comes through our lens, and all of a sudden we're like, they're saying I'm worthless. They're saying I'm stupid. They're saying I'm bad. Whatever our negative core belief is, that's how we will interpret things. So a very useful exercise might be, as you find yourself being offended by somebody or taking something personally, you can use the video I put out on EMDR core beliefs to kind of like drill into, what does this say about me? Why am I upset? What's the core message here? And if many situations are leading to the same negative core belief, then you can know that that's a belief through which you're viewing the world, and then you can begin to clear it. Now, clearing it might require therapy, it might require some healing work, but at least being aware of it can help you begin that process. And for those of you who haven't downloaded my PDF on Transform Your Negative Core Beliefs, please do so. It's free. The link is in the notes under the video. Since I recently realized that more than 60% of people are watching my videos on their phones, to find the links and the connections underneath the video, there's a little arrow right next to the video title that points down. You have to click that, and then you will see all these different options. So stay tuned for part 2 of this video about how to stop taking things so personally. And do let me know what you think about this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't. It's very motivating, helps me to keep continuing to put out videos to help people around the world live more joyful lives. And I'll see you next week.